live in a world that encourages us to look outside of ourselves for answers. A world that tells us that none of the answers that we're ever searching for exist within. A world that encourages us to externalize our power. But what if I told you that you have everything that you need within yourself? What if I told you that diving within is what you need to do if you want to find the answers that you're looking for? In this episode 7 of Forming the Formless, I'm going to be speaking all about the importance of diving within, understanding how you no longer have to find yourself when you know that you were never really lost, understanding the power of meditation, the power of presence, the power of silence, and certain things we can do in our day-to-day life in order to dive within and find that infinite power that exists within each and every one of us. My name is Jason Shurka, and this is Forming the Formless. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Forming the Formless. This is episode 7, all about diving within. This is actually the last foundation of the 6 foundations before heading into the 3 illusions of separation, of time, and of death. This foundation is very important because it explains the importance of diving deep within. When you dive deep within yourself, you enter the realm of infinite possibility. You enter the realm of infinite knowledge. You enter the realm of infinite awareness. And you finally tap into the part of you, the soul level, the soul dimension, that knows absolutely everything. And in that way, you no longer have to learn something. You remember that you're here in order to remember what you already know. The quote that I'd like to share for this foundation, for this episode about diving within, is a quote by Aristotle, and it says, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." And it's true. It's true because when you understand who you are, where you come from, what you're made of, and where you have the power to go, knowledge becomes wisdom. And wisdom is the language of the soul. So to begin this episode, I want to read you all an opening passage from Forming the Formless of this chapter, of this foundation, actually on page 94 of the physical book, if you have it in your hands. And the opening passage really sets the precedent for the importance of diving within ourselves and the dangers and the consequences of what could happen when we don't. And it goes as follows. We live in a world where others are constantly trying to find answers through external means. We live in a world where others truly believe that physical scientific instruments will be able to bring us to spiritual truth. We live in a world where others feel that they can gain true happiness and love through the use of material objects. As you may now understand, the world we live in is one grand illusion. Attempting to fix an internal problem through external means is not a possibility. Additionally, trying to understand the limitless universe through limited means, such as physicality, is no different than using a ruler to measure infinity. It will only lead you into a bottomless pit of dissatisfaction. We are spiritual beings. We are limitless beings. Everything you are searching for exists within you and nowhere else. So what are you waiting for? Dive within. So in order to successfully dive within yourself, you first have to know who you are. So I'm going to ask you all a question right now. Who are you? What are you? Are you something physical? Are you something spiritual? Are you your body? Are you more than that? And I want to raise a very important and interesting idea of when somebody says, my head, my brain, my heart, or when I speak to you and say your body, your hands, your fingers, your legs, your feet, your eyes, your nose, it belongs to you. So if you're not your head, and you're not your heart, and you're not your eyes, and you're not any part of your body, then what part of you is you? If your body is yours, then what are you? You see, in order to dive within, understanding the answer to this very powerful and foundational question is of utmost importance. And the answer to this question is actually very simple. It goes back to the law of conservation. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. You are obviously a physical form of matter experiencing itself through the awareness that it has. And therefore, beyond all physical form, you are the awareness that allows for your existence to be aware of itself in the first place. That's what I mean when I say soul. So a lot of people talk about finding themselves. They dive within and they say, I have to find myself. The problem with even the terminology of finding yourself implies that you are lost. And the implication of being lost causes us to look outside of ourselves in order to find ourselves, which once again will lead us to a bottomless pit of dissatisfaction. So let me break down and shift the perspective of finding oneself to discovering and uncovering oneself. You see, you were never lost. The only reason you may need to find yourself is because the ego always tries to label certain parts of who you are and what you are. So the ego says, I'm a father, I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I'm a brother, I'm a businessman, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an astronaut, I'm a race car driver. The truth is, you are not your job. You are not anything of what I just said. You are not your money. You are not just the son of your mother, or the son of your father, or the daughter of your mother, or the daughter of your father. You are not just the father to your children. These are all identities that the ego gives for closure. And again, that's not a bad thing, so long as you understand that that is not what you actually are. Now, the more the ego does its thing, the more layers of identity you build upon yourself. And if you'd like to find yourself, what I like to call rediscover yourself, you don't have to look outside. You dive within, you dissolve the identities and the beliefs and the labels that the ego has told you about yourself. You peel back those layers of identification, and the only thing that will be left after you dissolve the need to identify with one thing or another is the permanent core of your being, your essence, your soul. And that's why I don't call it finding yourself. I call it uncovering yourself. One makes you look outside of yourself. You will never, ever, ever find yourself in that way. And if you think you did through external means, I promise you it will bring you to a place that may not be in your best interest to lead a productive life of growth and evolution. The most important thing when it comes to diving within and learning about yourself is understanding that to learn about yourself in the best way possible, don't look out there, look within. Peel back the labels of identity. Peel back the layers of identity that you've given yourself. And the only thing that will be left is you. Which brings us to the fact that all answers exist within you. The question is, What part of you are you looking at? What perspective are you looking from? At this point, I want to give a quick little analogy that I wrote in Forming the Formless that, to me, made a lot of things very clear. And it's the analogy of a building. The analogy that will explain how we haven't been diving within. And diving within actually connects the physical to the spiritual because it transcends reason and logic. It brings us into the realm and the dimension of intuition, of instinct. So the analogy goes as follows. I want you to picture a building with 10 floors. You want to go and explore this building. You want to see what every floor has to offer. So you walk into the building, you walk into the lobby, you take the stairs, you go to the first floor, you see what it has to offer. You check it out, you go in and out of every room, and you say, wow, that's a nice first floor. You understand the blueprint. You understand everything. You go back to the staircase, you go to the second floor. You check it out, you see the rooms, you see the furniture, you see the walls, you see the paint on the walls. You understand everything that the second floor has to offer. You go back to the staircase, you go to the third floor, you open the door, and you check out the third floor. And now you even do an even more in-depth analysis of the third floor, seeing what the third floor has to offer. The furniture, the paint on the walls, all the little itty-bitty details that exist on the third floor. Now you want to go to the fourth floor. So what do? You go to the stairs, you walk up, you go to the door, and you see, well, wait a second, the door is locked. So what do? Well, you try and find a key, only to realize that there's no key to put into that door because that door has no key to open it. But you still want to get to the fourth floor to see it, so what do? Well, you go all the way downstairs. You exit the building. And you say, maybe I'll get in through a window. You put a ladder on the building. You go to the fourth floor. You realize there are no windows. You can't see in. So then you take it to the next step and you say, well, I'm going to blow out the wall, only to realize that the wall is reinforced with steel. There is no way to get into the building from the outside, from the fourth floor and upwards. And there is no way to get to the fourth floor and beyond from inside the building either. But we still have to say what's on 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in terms of what exists on the floors. So what do we do next? We use our knowledge of floor 1, 2, and 3 in order to theorize what exists on floor 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And that, my friends, is exactly what we've done in our world today. And I'll explain the importance of diving within in just a second, but I want to really drive home the fact that around the world, we're spending billions of dollars to go deeper and deeper into the oceans and deeper into space, only to find more and more and more of what we don't understand, because we can only see it from the perspective of the third floor and below. The question is, how do we get to the fourth floor? And what modern day 3D science does not understand, but I promise you they will, hopefully in the near future, is the fact that the fourth floor is not a physical place that you experience with your physical body. The fourth floor is a spiritual place. And in order to enter floor 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, you do so with your spirit. You do so with your soul. You do so by diving within yourself, tapping into your intuition, tapping into your instinct, which will lead you to your intuition. The fourth floor and beyond is where the physical realm ends and the spiritual realm begins. It's where the mind ends and the soul begins. And again, in order to get there, we have to dive within. Getting there is what I like to call the portal to infinity. Because each one of those spiritual floors, floor 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, they're all infinite in and of themselves. They transcend what we experience as physicality. In order to pass through the portal to infinity, introspection, going within, self-reflection and introspection is what must be done. What is introspection? Introspection is the practice of observing yourself without the limitations of your mind, but with the limitless nature of your soul. The more you introspect, the more floors you will be able to discover, because the more of your own intuition you will be able to tap into. The more of your own intuition you will be able to uncover. Introspection is simply feeling without the need to understand. It's limitless because you transcend your need to know. And remember what we said. To know is to limit all other possibilities. To know is something that happens on the level of the mind. Now, you could know something on the level of the soul, but you know it through a limitless perspective. And that's a whole different level of knowing. What we need to understand is that no matter how advanced technology becomes, physically oriented technology without a spiritual awareness of what I'm speaking about to all of you right now will bring us nowhere. Actually, it can even be detrimental. It can be dangerous. It can be dangerous because, again, knowledge without awareness leads us to do things in a very disconnected way, kind of like the pharmaceutical industry. It's based on knowledge of the ins and outs of how the human body works, but it forgets that everything in the human body is interconnected. And because it forgets and does not hold and possess the awareness of the interconnectivity of all, then it uses the knowledge in a detrimental way. And the result of that is creating a drug that is good for your acne but destroys your liver, is good for your heart but may give you diabetes, and so on and so forth. The key over here is understanding that because your essence spiritually exists in every dimension exists within you. That means that because your essence exists on every floor of the building, then you have the knowingness within you to understand and to know in a limitless way from the perspective of your soul what exists on floor 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and how things work and operate on floor 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Accessing intuition is very, very important when it comes to accessing the fourth floor. Intuition is your key. Introspection brings you there. And practicing tuning into your instinct will help you develop more of your intuition. So the fourth floor, again, is where the mind ends and where the spirit begins. There's a very interesting connection between intuition and instinct. You see, instinct is the universe flowing through you. Instinct doesn't have the need to learn. You don't need to learn an instinct. It's something that's innate within you. Animals have instincts. Instincts is what leads the zebra to stay away from the lion. And instinct is what causes the bird to stay away from the cat. What causes the prey to stay away from the predator. Intuition is simply further evolved instinct. It's taking that innate knowingness and making it conscious instead of just keeping it as a robotic thing that you do. The perfect example that will show you how instinct is a much more productive thing to follow. The perfect example that will show you how intuition and instinct will bring you much further, much quicker than logic and reason is an example that I'll give you when it comes to a hungry baby. A lot of people ask, what's the right way to eat? Are human beings supposed to eat meat? Are human beings not supposed to eat meat? And there are tons of studies based on logic and reason that show us both ways work and that show us both ways don't work. This is where we need intuition to be our leader. How do we do that? Well, we start paying attention to instinct. What does that mean? Let's go back to the hungry baby and the hungry lion. If you take a hungry lion, a hungry baby lion, before they were taught anything, and you put a rabbit and an apple in front of that hungry baby lion, the baby lion will play with the apple and eat the rabbit. If you took a hungry human baby and you put a rabbit and an apple, the instinct of the baby will be to eat the apple and to play with the rabbit. And that's all we need to know. Because instinct does not include falsehoods. Instinct cannot steer you wrong because instinct is the universe flowing through you. Instinct is your innate sort of consciousness that's within you telling you this is what's good for me and this is what's not. This is what's meant for me and this is what's not. And because of that, intuition coupled with instinct. Again, intuition is a more evolved form of instinct, but intuition brings us further much quicker with less mistakes along the way, as opposed to logic and reason. Does that mean that there's no place for logic and reason? Of course there is. What I'm saying is let intuition and instinct, but mainly intuition, be your leader. And let logic and reason be your checkers on the way. The problem in the world today is that logic and reason are our leaders. That's why there's so much confusion. Because we're operating out of the ego and the mind as opposed to out of the spirit and the soul. My point over here is through introspection, diving within, it will make it easier to learn more about your instinct, which will evolve into your innate intuition that's already a part of you. And that will help you lead a better and more focused and more guided life from within yourself, because that's where all exists. I want to speak about the power of meditation when it comes to diving within, as I'm sure you all know. But when I say the power of meditation, I want to redefine meditation. I feel a lot of people believe that meditation means you have to sit down like a monk on top of a mountain with your eyes closed, breathing consciously, and that's not true. You see, the definition of meditation is not necessarily an act of doing. It's an act of being. An act of being what? An act of being present. Meditation means you are present in what you're doing. That means that as I'm literally recording this episode right now, I am in a state of meditation because I am in a state of presence. That means that when you're on the subway having a cup of coffee talking to somebody, so long as you're present, you are in a state of meditation because you are in a state of presence. In other words, meditation is a state of being in presence. I'd like to read a passage from Forming the Formless in this chapter all about diving within and the power of meditation. But I'm going to ask you all to sit with yourself right now in pure presence, whether you sit upright or lay down, eyes open, eyes closed. The only thing I'm going to ask of you is to be here with me as I read what I'm about to read, because the words that I'm about to read are activating. And they may activate a certain feeling within you that will give you the ability to really facilitate inducing a meditative state, a state of pure presence like that moving forward. The easiest way to get into a pure state of meditation is through the use of sound. You must begin by listening. Simply listen to each and every sound that exists around you. Don't identify what each sound is. Rather, just hear each sound for the noise that it is creating. More importantly, Don't judge the sounds. Whether it be the wind, a traffic jam, the sneeze, or the morning birds, just listen. Don't let any sound bother or frustrate you. Just listen to each for what they are. Next time you listen to someone speaking, practice listening to each word. Don't make sense of the words. Just listen to the sounds that each one creates. Thoughts are just internal sounds. Nevertheless, they are sounds. As you hear these thoughts in your mind, simply listen to them, just as you would listen to sounds in the world around you. You must listen to them just as you listen to the wind, a traffic jam, or a sneeze. Look at your own thoughts as nothing but noises, and you will come to realize that your internal experience and your external experience are one. Your thoughts are no different from the traffic jam, the wind, and the sneeze. They are all sounds. All you are doing is listening to them. As you start your meditation, allow your breath to continue as it usually does. Let your breath flow in the way it would like to, with no intentional breathing exercises. You will come to realize that your breath is both voluntary and involuntary. On the one hand, you can voluntarily choose to breathe in a certain way. On the other hand, if you choose not to focus your attention on your breath, you will continue breathing involuntarily. In other words, the breathing will be happening to you. For this reason, breath is the most important part of meditation. Breath shows us that the division between what we voluntarily do and what involuntarily happens to us is an illusion. Both the voluntary and involuntary aspects of your experience of life are all one. So is life happening to you, or are you making life happen? On the one hand, the sun rises and the sun sets. Temperature varies from cold to hot. Through this perspective, life happens to you just as breathing occurs when you are asleep. However, there exists another perspective where you are making life happen just as breathing occurs during voluntary and mindful breathing exercises. As the famous philosopher Alan Watts once said, "Your eyes turn the sun into light. Your nerve endings turn vibrations in the air into heat and temperature. Your eardrums turn vibrations in the air into sound. You are creating your world. The truth is, both of these perspectives are true. You are just as much the doer as you are the experiencer." The power of meditation and introspection throughout your period of presence, your practice of inducing a state of being absolutely present, will bring us into a place of knowing ourselves, which, as Aristotle says, is the beginning of all wisdom. The power of meditation is the power of being present. And the power of silence is knowing that all existence emerges out of silence. In the next episode of Forming the Formless, episode 8, we will be moving from the foundations of this universe into the illusions of the matrix. Episode 8 is going to be all about the illusion of separation, helping us now see through and transcend beyond the illusion of separation, being that we now understand the foundations that make up this universe in the way that we experience it. My name is Jason Shurka, and this is Forming the Formless, accessing and elevating your spirit and soul. I'll see you next time. Subscribe. Hey, thanks for watching this video. There's so much more I'd like to dive into, but unfortunately, we can't do that here thanks to the heavy censorship efforts from big tech. If you want to explore this topic further, you can dive deep by accessing our entire uncensored library on unified.tv. There's a link in the description below this video if you want to check it out. A membership to Unified TV gives you unlimited access to hundreds of uncensored podcasts, investigative journalism, documentaries, films, and content that was once available on major streaming platforms like Netflix, but is now banned from the internet. For just $14.99 a month, which is less than $1 a day, You get access to it all. Your subscription also helps keep the platform running free from censorship and corporate influence. Please consider supporting us and enjoy all of our unfiltered and thought-provoking content in return. Thank you very much, and I will see you on Unified TV.